she's a rather outstanding person. She's the biggest little person I know. She comes in a small package, but she's incredibly powerful. And when you sit down with her in a business coaching session, you get so much more than moving your business forward. You get good questions and insight, and the spiritual aspect will blow you away. Very intuitive. So she's a real gift to anyone that works with her. So we are very privileged to have her here today. Pam, please come.
So as Lisa shared, I'm a very small person, so I have a little aid today. Okay, is that better? Now, hopefully I won't topple off and just embarrass myself, but that somehow I think that would pertain to the topic today. So confession on my part, when John first approached me a few months ago, invited me to speak on the general topic of what role does character play in success. Well, I kind of freaked out. And it sent me into a bit of a tailspin, honestly. But of course I said yes, and we'll figure it out later, right? So the problem is, one is such an enormous topic, both character and success. People write books on either of those. And also I felt, well, who am I really to speak to either, character or success? As most of the time, both of those feel elusive to me. And I'm definitely a work in process, as are we all. But as a coach, in my role there, I find that I'm more interested and more committed to other people's success, really, than to my own. And so I felt, not very adequate from that perspective as well. However, it occurred to me that I know some wonderful people who I think of have high character and they are successful in business, or they know people who are successful. So I thought, let's talk to them and I'll get really good insight from them. And I want to say a lot of the wisdom and insight that they shared with me in this broader conversation has really shaped what I'm going to share here today, and also my own journey. So I want to give a quick, brief shout out to some of the people that participated in this conversation. One is Dave Leonardi with the Boeing Company, Jim Motes with Vistage, Carrie Maldonado with Limitless HR Solutions, and Michelle Tornetta, who's right here, who's also my spiritual director, and then, of course, my pastor, Jake Petzel. So I want to start out with, because this is such a huge topic, there are really a couple key questions. What does character mean to you, and what does success mean to you? As we embark on this together, I'm really probably going to throw out more questions than answers. So I just invite you to take what resonates with you and reflect on what's meaningful for you. What does character mean to you? What are some words that come to mind for you when I say what is character? And just share real quick.
Doing what you say you're going to do.
Do what you say you're going to do. Excellent. Yeah.
The values you have inside your mind and inside your existence.
So your values that you have.
Make decisions, make difficult decisions in your life.
That help you make difficult decisions. Excellent. Yes. Yeah. Humility. Yes. Yeah. So, and what was that? Fairness. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. Well, there's a lot of ideas, and you can see there's a lot of different definitions. So I just invite you to think about your personal definitions and what is most important to you when it comes to character traits. For a common starting point, I'm going to define character as a set of virtues that are desirable, ways of being that are desirable. Now, success, I think that's even a more diverse area to talk about. What does success mean to you? What does it look like to you? Well, just to kind of jump ahead, I'll lead with my definition. I had to think about this actually pretty hard. To me, success means the degree to which I fulfill God's purpose for my life. Whatever that is for you, whatever your personal definition is, what's important is that it is your own. and not somebody else's definition. So again, I invite you to consider that question. So if the key is the degree to which I achieve that purpose, it's really, that for me, that's reaching my dreams. It's where my dream aligns with God's dream for me. And I firmly believe it's revealed progressively over time. However, it raises another question. How do I know what that dream is? Right? Well, that's another topic for another time. We're not going to get into it here. But while that dream may be clear, it's still a huge process. And so here's the essence of what character plays in that for me. The degree to which I grow in character determines the degree to which I understand what the dream is and the degree to which I actualize it. That is it. And yet it's so elusive. Now your definition again may be different. So that here's the tension for me. If my dream is clear, why do I feel so far from it? Now I imagine that others might feel the same way. I see a lot of heads nod. So the gap can seem so immense. How do we close the gap? Well, here's where my inner struggle brought out a huge shift in a conversation with my friend Jim. He said, well, it's really not a conversation about character and success. It's really a conversation about character and failure. It's like, oh yeah, that's it. You know, and especially in business, most of us are either we have our own business or we're professionals of some nature. And I think in business, really, as statistics show, that in business we experience failure far more often than we do success, right? In fact, the Small Business Administration has statistics around that. I believe they say for every business that succeeds, 7 fail. And in fact, Henry Ford is said to have failed in business 5 times before he was successful. So I thought, okay, there's hope for me. And in fact, I would argue that most of us are far more acquainted to failure and hardship and struggle than to success. I know I can relate to it far easier. So I would suspect that many of you right now are going through something hard. You're probably facing something that's a deep struggle, a trial. Maybe you're feeling a sense of failure around it. So here's the deal. Your struggle, and most importantly, how you respond to it, is essential to your dreams. Some important questions like, okay, well, how do we respond then to that failure, that disappointment, that hardship? And can I still be successful in the face of loss and failure? What does that even look like? And how does character interact between the two? Let's look at it in the light of one of my favorite Cinderella stories. It's about a horse called Snowman. Snowman was a champion jumper that took the nation by surprise in the late 1950s. So there's a picture that's on the left is Harry DeLayer and Snowman, and this is based on the book that Elizabeth Letts wrote, a biography about their story. So basically, Harry was a poor Dutch immigrant farmer that came to the U.S. after World War II. And he found Snowman on the back of a truck bound for a slaughterhouse. He was also a horse trainer, and he taught lessons for schoolgirls on horsemanship. So he found Snowman, and the two developed a transformational relationship with this broken down plow horse. And the two, he named him Snowman. Actually, his children named the horse Snowman. And for 2 years, less than 2 years, Harry and Snowman worked together, and they went on to win the Triple Crown of show jumping, including Madison Square Garden in 1958, I think, beating out a nation of fancy horses and diva trainers. And here are these two from the farm. It was awesome. They were famous in their day, and they traveled around the world together. Snowman was a horse whose extraordinary talent was really only noticeable when faced with the highest obstacles. In fact, he would stumble over the low jumps. He would often clear jumps in excess of 7 feet. So what gave Snowman such power? Well, remember the plow? He started out his life as a plow horse and worked so hard that after 8 years, he was pretty much used up and discarded. And yet it was the plowing, I believe, that developed the muscular power for him to clear those enormous jumps, right? And to really take the world by storm in the late 50s. So it was the plow that helped Snowman soar.
Oh, you got it.
Okay. So this picture, that's not Snowman, by the way, in that picture. But I want to make a point, is that it is the plow that helps you soar. It is the plow that gives you the power to soar to the fullest heights. For me, this metaphor is the plow represents the process of building character. It's the hardship through which character is formed. And it was that moment when it was really, I guess you could consider a moment of failure in Snowman's life when he found himself on the truck for the slaughterhouse. Yet it was also the moment of greatest discovery when Harry stumbled upon this horse and they connected eye to eye, and he saw that this horse had heart. And at that divine moment, when poor met poor and a transformational partnership was formed, and the poor and the disadvantaged in the nation found hope and inspiration in a champion that they could relate to. And it set the two on a path for glory. So back to character for a moment. Think about, from what you know so far of the story, what was Snowman's character like? Well, to me, I see, that he had heart. Snowman was hardworking. Obviously, the plow had a lot to do with that. He was loyal. They mentioned that Snowman would do anything for his rescuer. He was gentle and mild. He was so mild that he was perfect for beginner riders, those little girls that were timid on a horse. And the children loved him. And he was humble. He didn't seek the spotlight or attention, and yet he didn't shy away from it. He knew his place in it. What was Harry's character like? Well, you read his story and immediately you know he's resourceful. He's a man of limited means. He knows how to make the most, of a penny. Otherwise, he never would have bought Snowman. He wouldn't even bother to go to that auction. He was compassionate, and he saw the best in people and animals. He was hardworking and diligent. He was willing to put in the training and the patience required to develop Snowman's talent. And he was also a guy who put family first. He never sold out. After they started winning championships, these trainers from all over the world would approach Harry with blank checks. I want to buy your horse. Name your price. Harry's response was, he's not for sale. My children love him. And Harry likewise was gentle, both with horse and children, and humble. So I would argue that it was the character of these two unlikely champions that endeared them to people across the country and catapulted them to fame worldwide. It was their character framed by hardship that set Harry and Snowman apart from all the other fancy pants trainers and diva horses that came from, money and all the resources money could buy. So here's the question. What's your plow? You might be going through something really hard right now that feels like failure. And maybe even feel a little hopeless. So what might you take away from Snowman's story that applies to you in your story? Because you were made to soar. So the plow serves a purpose in your story and in your dreams. So here's a little story from one of my stories. I call this the story of the boss I didn't like but grew to love. Back in my marketing career, I was a couple years into my marketing job, and I loved it. I basically ran a department of one and had a lot of freedom. Things were going well. And then the company hired a new boss for me. And I couldn't stand the guy, honestly. I hate to admit it now, but the guy drove me crazy. To me, I saw him and interacted with him, and I thought he was rude and arrogant and egotistical, and I couldn't get it worded edgewise, and I was so frustrated because I loved the job. I didn't want to go anywhere, and it looked like he wasn't going to go anywhere. So I figured I better deal with this, right? And after I realized this, I prayed in desperation. God, this isn't working. Please change this relationship. And what happened surprised me. Over time, my boss didn't really change, but I did. And somehow God started to let me see my boss through God's eyes. And he gave me patience and tolerance. Then the turning point came when my boss got engaged to the most remarkable women, one of the most remarkable women that I've met, and I loved her the moment I met her. And then God began to show me his heart. And what opened up for me was softness and humor, and I saw someone who had a genuinely big heart and concern for other people, including me. And in fact, he gave me tons of excellent training that over time has shaped not only my marketing career, but my coaching practice today. And I can say that this man invested in me more than anybody else had done before. And then when he helped me through an intense personal crisis, my vulnerability in that time of need, when I went to him with that, it opened up a door to a deep friendship. And then we talked a lot. We shared a lot. We shared heart to heart together. So it was really, the struggle that I had in the beginning, that sense of failure and hardship, was really what brought me to my knees in prayer. And God has transformed me faithfully to work change in that relationship. And through it, I can say now, looking back, that God formed a character trait in me of looking for treasure in other people, no matter how rough the exterior. And I find joy, great joy in that. By the way, just to clarify, when I speak of the plow is never a person. Just want to be clear that by plow, I mean the situation and our relationship to it. Yeah, I know. So why bother? Why care about character? Why pay attention to it? Well, let me ask you this. Is it possible to succeed without character? We can all think of a lot of stories, dozens of stories about where lack of character has taken down some pretty successful people who we thought as successful. And it does depend on how you define success. But think about this. Could Snowman have gotten as far as he did without the plow? Would his story have been memorable or have any impact? I doubt it. Now, if you have experience in hiring people, what do you value most when you're hiring? Do you place higher value on skill and talent or character? Not an easy decision. However, I would argue that lack of character derails someone's success faster than lack of skill or talent. So you definitely notice it when it's missing. So, and I think this plays out in daily life even more than in the big stuff. For example, I used to go to a hair salon to have my hair done at this really nice high-end salon, and I loved what they did. They were highly skilled stylists, and when I noticed that their conversations were around other clients, even kind of gossiping, it made me feel uncomfortable, and it bothered me a bit, so much so that I decided not to go back, even though they're super good. And now that you're all looking at my hair, you might be thinking, oh, maybe she should reconsider. So now, as we close, I want to challenge you with some points of reflection to take away. You have handouts in front of you. If you need any more, there's some extra on this table, maybe, or we'll get you one. So think about what character traits are most important to you. And on the handout, there's a pie chart. And then if you need some ideas, there's a list on the top. But I invite you to think about what are your definitions and use your wording that you like, that feels meaningful to you. And then write in what traits you feel are most important to you on the handout. So that's kind of the first point of reflection. And now remember, it's the plow that helps you soar. With that in mind, I want to offer you some additional questions to reflect on, and they're also on your handout. So think about these, I would say, mostly on your own time. There's a lot here to digest. But one, where in your life do you feel hitched to a plow right now? What hard struggles might you be going through right now? What are you facing? And second, what purpose might that plow serve? What character traits are being formed in you right now through that situation? What could it look like to cooperate in that process? What might you be resisting? How might this plow help you soar later? And when might it be time to unhitch? Even if it means admitting failure. And how will you know? Maybe you won't. Now, because I firmly believe that character is developed and cultivated in community with vulnerability, I invite you to have conversations with one another, meet for coffee. Contact me if you want to meet for coffee. I would love to hear your story. And think about this. If all of us step into that process of character formation and all of us get to soar, imagine what that would be like to soar together in community, in this community. Thank you.